Okay, let's talk about this. The Tenshi Narumon mangas are an obscure work written by the creator of the anime, Hiroshi Nishikori, released the same day the anime finished its run of the episodes that were meant to be featured in it. So in the first 13 episodes, they're featured in the first manga right here. And for when the anime finished its total runtime, the second manga came out. This made the manga not very popular, and the lack of popularity is what inspired me to purchase this book after realizing there was so little information on it, both in English and Japanese online spaces. Now yes, there's never been an English translation of these mangas, so I read them through an image translation software. But that's okay, because I still ended up enjoying them so much, so no matter what. The manga, for the most part, follows the same story as the original anime. It has a bit of a darker tone than the anime, a little bit more psychological, but still equally as interesting. One thing that the manga has over the anime is that there's no filler here. Every line matters in some way to the story, of the plot, or of a character's dynamics. Overall, I would say it does a better job at tying the loose ends that the anime has so many of. It doesn't leave as many ends untied. And the characterization in this manga is phenomenal. And it's due in part by the beautiful art by Tetsuya Ono. Now, while I'm not personally a fan of the art style they went for, they do a great job of making the world feel so much more alive and grandiose than the anime. Anyway, back to characters. Most of the characters you know in the anime are very similar in manga form, aside from a few exceptions that were made to make the manga flow nicer than the anime. The most changed character must be Eros, changing his task from pleasing Soki to be a sort of lover in pursuit of Noelle. He still shows utmost affection to Soki, however, with this whole Noelle thing being an act to draw her heart away from Yusuke. So, some more of that love manipulation things that you know from the original anime, of course. Most notably, however, Raphael is completely absent from the manga and remains an anime-exclusive character. Now, with Raphael being a favorite of mine, I was excited to see him in manga form, but outside of a couple flashbacks, he's never mentioned, unfortunately for me. Now, let's talk about some of our main characters. In the anime, Noelle is shown to be a goofy, positive, air-headed, and carefree girl who loves Yusuke for unknown reasons. In the manga, Noelle is still shown to be goofy at times, but I would say far less. Now that is possibly due to the limited space on paper in the manga, but more interestingly, her airheadedness seems to be taken down a notch in the manga. She seems much more aware of things that are going on, fighting Muse for Yusuke's affection, and even admitting why she likes Yusuke in the first place. When Soki asks why she even likes that boy, asking if it was perversity, she admits that it might have been, but now it's something different now. She's showing some sort of understanding for her own feelings that we don't see in the anime. Yusuke remains mostly the same. However, it is shown in a dream about a play he may have had when he was younger that he struggles with abandonment issues. That's all I gotta say about Yusuke. Natsumi is an interesting one. Natsumi is, just like in the anime, shown to be stoic as always, but after meeting her brother Fuyuki following her transformation into a kid, when she returns to normal, she takes Fuyuki's advice to smile more consistently, and, she just smiles so much more. Speaking of her transformation into a child, in the manga it is represented as a second Natsumi speaking to her, which is of course Milanu trying to get into her mind to get her to fall for Yusuke to stop Noelle from becoming an angel, just like in the anime. When she confesses these feelings in the second manga here, she's met with rejection and plays it off as a test for how strong the bond between Yusuke and Noelle is. But when Yusuke leaves her house, all she can do is cry and ask, if that's really true, why does it feel like a real rejection? Crazy stuff. Mikhail is another interesting one. Without Raphael around, he feels much more stoic, but he also ends up finding himself off the rails so much easier without Raphael around, losing it even when Noelle's halo had even temporarily fallen off. In the manga, it temporarily falls off, okay? Yelling at people, lifting Yusuke up by the collar, he's brutal right from the very start of any sort of deviation from his plan, without Raphael keeping him in check. Despite this, though, he still says to himself, like, as if talking to Raphael, like, when are you going to help and stop watching me? Likely in reference to Raphael not being there. Of course, he never shows up in the manga. Mikhail is also shown to be quite fluent in magic, able to suppress Baba's magical power to stop her from stopping him, which is crazy stuff. Silky has a couple of changes. When Noelle is shown to activate her halo, an egg-shaped object, which I can only assume to be her soul, pops out of her body. In this object, you can see what Noelle and Mikhail see, and I want to assume that this is the same object that this spell looks into in the anime when watching Noelle. I mean, look how similar these look. Silky is also shown to be more physically abusive and torturous than mentally abusive like in the anime, which leads to some pretty graphic-looking scenes involving Muse. We only ever see Silky do this twice in the manga, though. She was seen whipping and hanging them. Now, I'm going to put Muse and Eros together because they have a very similar role in the manga. Muse and Eros are siblings in the manga that work to try and make both Yusuke and Noelle's feelings turn to themselves. Following Muse's betrayal upon seeing Yusuke's kindness firsthand, Silky punishes her severely, leading to those graphic scenes I mentioned earlier, which is where the equivalent confrontation scene from the anime takes place. Also, Muse and Eros get to live in the manga. Silky doesn't kill them, just leaves them to rot in her castle until the epilogue. This spell does not survive, however, and he is the one that gets turned into a keychain. The plot itself remains mostly the same, with only minor differences, like, instead of taking the stairway to the stars, Mikhail can make his wish to become an angel from the clock tower. Very interesting. These differences, however, helped me better understand more of who these characters are in both the anime and the manga. Seeing them go through different situations to get to the same conclusion is fascinating, at least to me. But the action scenes are where the manga really shine. They feel way more impactful. I mean, Mikhail starts an explosion at Noelle's house, and on that point, I love how much more important the powers that Mikhail and Silky have is made. They're powerful people, with the magical ability that they have obtained from being a third of an angel. The visualization of them is great as well. We get to see magical circles get summoned when they use magic. It just makes everything feel way more dramatic and impactful than it does in the anime. Overall, if you are a Tenshi Narumon fan like myself, I would highly recommend giving this a read if you are able. I understand it's kind of hard to find, so don't force yourself to try and look for it. I get it. If you are not a Tenshi Narumon fan and you want to get into it, I would still recommend reading the manga over the anime if you're able to get it, but if not, just watch the anime. Maybe if enough of you would like, I could try and scan the mangas that I have and translate them for anyone to read. Let me know in the comments if you would like that. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I've never made a commentary video like this before, but I might do more now that I've gotten a taste of it, so I look forward to that. If you think I missed anything important, feel free to let me know in the comments. Alright, bye!